Fear is the path to the dark side.
That a Fed chair, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, has publicly taken sides in a partisan fiscal debate. But should we be surprised that Princeton Professor Bernanke wants more spending even though we don't have the money? My next guest certainly isn't. Joining me now, one of the fiercest defenders of the free market, Peter Schiff, radio talk show host and president of Euro Pacific Capital. Peter, welcome here. No surprise that Bernanke.
Well, at least there's no more even pretense that there's some independence here at the Fed. But, you know, Ben Bernanke must really love using that printing press.
Right.
Because the real danger is not that they failed to increase the debt ceiling, but that that's the catastrophe. You know, instead of just being the enabler of deficit spending, which is what Bernanke is, because without quantitative easing, without this cheap money, the Fed would be forced to, the Treasury would be forced to be fiscally responsible. But not only is he enabling this, but he's actually cheerleading it. He's actually opposing the efforts to rein in federal spending. He's encouraging more debt so he can monetize them.
Right, well, this would give him more power, right? To give him more control over the federal government, right? More toys to play with. So.
Well, but look, he's destroying the country, not only in America, but he's exporting inflation all around the world.
Right.
You know, Ben Bernanke is trying to absolve himself from the responsibility of inflation in other countries by saying that other central banks have their own independent monetary policy. But they don't, because the dollar is the reserve currency.
Right.
And if you're issuing the reserve currency, you have to understand how your monetary policy affects other nations that have pegged to your currency.
All right, you not only are an expert on the economy, you're also involved in politics. You ran for the Republican nomination for the United States Senate in Connecticut. You weren't successful at the time. Who knows what the future will bring? Do you think that the Republicans in the House of Representatives have the political courage to stick to their guns, by which I mean when they were running for office they said small government, maximum individual liberty, no more borrowing? Do you think they'll vote against raising the debt ceiling, or do you think they'll cut some kind of a deal with the president and give him and Tim Geithner all the borrowing authority they need?
I think there will be some that will vote against it, only because they know that there'll be enough people to vote for it so that it will pass. I don't think any of the Republicans really are going to stick to these pledges. I think maybe you can count on one hand the number of people who genuinely believe in small government. I think most of them rode into this wave the way politicians get elected. They read the writing on the wall and they scripted their candidacy to pick up some of this Tea Party support. But I think when it's all said and done, they're mainly politicians, and I think a lot of them will end up caving into the idea that, well, if I lose, if I don't do what it takes to get reelected, right, somebody else will win, and so I'm going to compromise, because if I lose, then somebody worse will come in, and we'll just get the same old, same old.
Well, but this is such a grand Ponzi scheme that we will borrow money to pay the lenders of money we borrowed before. How do they think? How would Bernanke tell us if he was sitting here that this madness will ever end? Or in their view, does it not need to?
Well, I don't know that they think. I think they just print. I think they're just trying to get by the next election cycle. They're just going to try to do whatever they can. I mean, we're now in an economy where all we do is print and spend money to buy what other people make. And look at President Obama trying to micromanage the economy from Washington, disguising the spending as investment.
Right.
And we're ballooning the size of government. He's trying to pick the technologies that Barack Obama thinks that are going to dominate the future and direct government resources.
Last question. I know Bernanke is a professor at heart, and professors like to challenge their pupils. But the same person who is saying, give Tim Geithner the power to borrow more money, also said, not too long ago, our debt is, quote, unsustainable. So how can he argue out of both sides of his mouth?
Because he's a liar, and he's a hypocrite. That's how he can do it. And he's a central banker. Look at what's happening in the bond market. This is reality. Interest rates today, again, on 10-year treasuries at their highest level, I think, since April of 2010. Look at the chart, the trajectory. Interest rates are headed substantially higher, which is a repudiation of everything Ben Bernanke is doing and saying. Look at commodity prices. Copper hit a new all-time record high today.
I wonder who's going to have to pay those high interest rates. That would be the taxpayers.
Well, they figure they're going to print the money to pay that too.
Wow.
It's going to be the savers. It's going to be American retirees who are going to see their wealth wiped out because this madman is printing money and encouraging Congress to keep on going into debt so we can do it.
Peter Schiff, thank you very much.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.